This is none of our black business. We've been invited to stay out of it. By Doug Rice. Black people in America have been uninvited to the cookout. We have been instructed to maintain our position. They have made it abundantly clear that they do not want black people in, around, or involved in the day-to-day mechanisms and governmental decisions made in this country and elsewhere globally. This is their mess, and they want to clean it up all by themselves, and I say let them. We're watching as they've allowed the center to disintegrate into utter chaos, disarray, and confusion. They've put in place and elevated the absolute worst of them to run this government by the skin of his teeth and the hair of his ass. All the while maintaining the white supremacy that has rewarded them with the false sense of superiority they have relied and rested upon for centuries. As the failure overcomes them, and they begin to realize that there is no future that includes them, the panic will set in. Right now it hums at a slow buzz just behind their eyes, barely discernible, yet steadily growing louder. And as the sun above them vibrates their brains into oblivion, give them the space needed to search frantically for the calm and the reason which evades them at every turn. The decisions that they've been making since 2016, when they elected a credibly accused pedophile and known con man to the highest office of their land, have only gotten worse and more detrimentally impactful within their society. As the degradation and disintegration gains momentum, quickening the pace towards their ultimate demise, watch carefully as one by one they slowly lose their minds. What's happening is worse than the blind leading the blind. It's the infirmed leading the crippled, leading the deaf, leading the mute. The crazed hatred that they have held within them for the last 100 years has now been unleashed, and it is our responsibility to stay just outside of their reach, as when they get a hold of any one of us who has lost sight of the danger, they rip apart the life of the unwitting stranger. They have always been lethal in their lethargy and lascivious in their nature. They escaped Europe knowing that they were fleeing from an association with one another that only bred wars, conflict, and murderous actions that were killing them by the thousands. They thought that by finding a new land they could evade and avoid their natural proclivities and start afresh in lands that were not their own. But in establishing their new world, their murderous nature was used as a tool and a weapon to lay the groundwork for the society in which they claimed to be so civil. And as the dust settled and the bodies were buried under the land they'd stolen, they incorporated slavery into their matrix, and it was us they sold. Over time, civility and advancement were bred into the landscape of the country they attempted to build, claiming equality and fairness for all those they invited to the feast. Their promises were hollow and without value. The lies they told to increase their numbers were offered to those they called poor and tired, and was deeply immersed in the falsehood they sired. Fast forward to today, and we can see their self-control slip away, as they are overcome by the inertia of the circles they've been walking in for 250 years. None of this is our black business. We've been impolitely disinvited to stay out of it and sit on the sidelines, as these wild minds go about dismantling the society they weave together through slavery, murder, disenfranchisement, prejudice, segregation, subjugation, and white entitlement. The exclusionary process and attitude they've cultivated has been preserved in their memory and has gone unabated, and nothing has value that is not white-related. They will pay a bitter price for their short-sightedness and for their unrighteousness. They strive for a watered-down, bland and benign kind of whiteness to fill the empty ranks they've cleared of color to satisfy their need to feel superior. Their inferiority complex is taken out of context and replaced instead with pretext in anticipation of what comes next. They feel emboldened by their failures that they have mistaken for successes, as they incorporate all advancement by promoting incompetence into positions of prominence. The failed experiment that has become the United States of America has come nearly full circle, ready to complete the story that now may soon come to an abysmal end. As they try to erase the accomplishments, successes, and history of black achievement, offered in sacrifice to the building of a society they no longer wish to be inclusive, they will receive in full measure the rewards of such a reckless and disrespectful decision. The mediocre white men who are wholly unqualified and not up to the task of governing such a nation built upon the backs of the black people who were forced into servitude, now stumble and reach blindly for answers that evade them, as their intellect is not up for the challenge put before them. The world waits in eager anticipation of the falling and failure of the United States, which has victimized the entire planet and has only white supremacy as its chief export. They only look to themselves for answers where none can be found, and cascade into the madness created by such a futile attempt to resolve the problems that they themselves have created. This was all predictable. This was all avoidable. This was all inevitable.